and welcome to an episode of All About That Bass. Now, I know some of you might be wondering where I've been, what's been going on, why it's been such a long time since I posted a video. And for those of you who are interested, I do have an update video that I'm put together just now, and that will be coming out slightly later in the week. But I wanted to kind of come back with this video because it gives me a chance to share some really exciting news with you. For those of you who don't know, while I've been away from YouTube, I have partnered with Gatehouse Gaming. They are a UK supplier of 3D printed miniatures, 3D printed buildings, 3D printed scatter terrain, and a huge range of basing materials. I ran into them at UKGE and we got chatting, and they were kind enough to send me a massive box of all of their stuff, basically. So I've been busy painting away some of their models, and now I am going to be starting to use some of their products in my videos. So I've been wanting to say this ever since the first video I ever created. This video is sponsored by Gatehouse Gaming. So this video, I decided I wanted to go back to a video that I did in the early days. And the reason for that is when I made that original base, I didn't have, or I couldn't find the materials I wanted to be able to make it exactly how I wanted it to be. So I messed around and did a few things, and I was never quite happy with the look. So then this stuff came from Gatehouse Gaming, and I saw the potential there to really revamp that base. So that's why we are doing another pirate-themed base today. Now, stick around at the end of the video and I'll tell you a little bit more about Gatehouse Gaming and where you can get their things. But let's head to the table and I will see you in a bit. Take some Vallejo Rough Pumice Texture, my all-time favourite. And we're just going to apply a layer of this onto a base, any base you've got. And we're just going to apply a thin layer to begin with. Now, the reason for this is because we do want the half of this base to be quite a thick layer of the pumice. But if you apply that all at once, it doesn't dry very well. And you end up doing what I did and finishing, or thinking you'd finished a really nice base, picking it up and putting your finger through it. So I highly recommend doing this in 2 stages. So once the first stage has dried, we're going to go back to the white pumice again, and we're just going to kind of build up a mound on half of the base, so that it's gradually building up height from the front to the back, so that it kind of looks like a bit more of a realistic mound of sand, like you would see on a beach. So we're going to leave that to dry overnight. And now these are some little scatter terrain pieces from Gatehouse Gaming. We've got a scroll, a book, a little loot bag, and a pair of boots. So I'm going to put a few of these onto this base, just to give it that little bit of extra flavour, extra theme. So I am just applying some small amounts of extra white pumice, and I'm just pressing these little 3D printed pieces into that, and the pumice will then act as an adhesive and your little pieces of terrain will stick to the base. So I'm just putting on a pair of boots, I'm putting on a little bag of loot, and then I'm going to add a scroll at the back. Now, once that was dry, I originally primed it in Earth by Colourforge. Now, these are fantastic primers. They're great value for money and they come in a massive range of colours, and you also get great coverage from them, so I highly recommend them. Now, to paint the scatter terrain, I am using Army Painter's speed paints. So for the little bag there, I am using their paint Sand Golem. For the little scroll, I'm using their Pallid Bone. And then for the boots, I am going to use Dark Wood. Now, these are great paints for these kind of quick basing jobs where you just need to add a little bit of colour to them. Really, really great paints for doing this kind of thing. And as you can see, the colours are really great as well. You can get some lovely effects from using them. So as I said, onto the dark wood, onto the boots. You don't have to be too careful with this painting. It doesn't matter if you do get any of it onto the rest of the base, onto the primer, because it's all going to be covered up with sand anyway, once we've finished and start adding the rest. So I added a few little details off camera as well that I will show you in a minute. I'm just adding the final little detail there of some red, just to pick out that little band around the scroll and just to give a little bit of extra colour on there. And now you can kind of see the little details that I've added on the laces and things like that. But you don't have to go into too much effort for that. So I am using Everbuild all-purpose glue. I've recently discovered this and it's a great basing glue. It's quite thick and gloopy, so it's really good if you want to get like a nice thick layer of glue onto any of your basing projects. So once I have covered everything in the glue and I'm just adding some extra thick bits to get a really nice thick layer of basing material on there. And I'm going to be using Gatehouse Gaming basing material for this. They sent me a massive box of stuff. And when I saw these, this was the inspiration for making this base. So I've got their Pirate Bay, which is a beachy sand, and their Shell Shocked, which is crushed seashells. And what I'm going to do is I've mixed those together in a 50-50 mix. I'm putting my base in there, and then I'm just going to throw this on top and press it down into the base so that it gets a nice thick layer. Once it's dried and you've tipped it off, this is what you should have. Now, because we're going to be adding water effects to this base, I want to add my matte varnish early on in the process, because the matte varnish will dull down the gloss of the water effects. So now I've done all of the painting and all of the basing materials, I'm painting the rim at this point, and then I'm going to go away, I'm going to apply my layer of matte varnish so everything's nice and protected. And then when we come back, I'm going to be able to show you how we add the water effects. And by doing it this way, we ensure that we'll still have that nice, natural, glossy look on the water effects once it's dried. So a little bit of a mistake on here. You can see some blue on there. We're just going to pretend that didn't happen. I had a little bit of an incident with a spillage. So moving swiftly on, what I've done here is I've taken some Vallejo water gel and I've added a couple of drops of blue ink from Green Stuff World. Now, don't make the same mistake as I did. I put too many drops of blue into this. It looked quite pale, but it did actually go a little bit darker. So I would recommend mixing in maybe just one drop of the ink so you just do get that subtle hint of colour. Make sure that you go all the way up and get some of that stuff onto the little items that you added as well, because that just adds to the realism of them being partially submerged in the water. And then once you've got enough gel on there, what you just need to do is go through with the tip of your brush and just kind of do tiny flicking motions and pull up, and it just gives the idea of those ripples, those tips of waves. Now, the weather has been incredibly hot and humid, so as you can see, the water texture here isn't quite dry. It's probably going to take about another week. But I thought, let's get this video finished. So what I've done here is from AK Interactive, I have their white sea foam, and it's essentially a very thick white paste. Now, you don't have to use this. You could just use normal white acrylic paint if you wanted, but just make sure you don't thin it. Keep it quite thick. And all I'm doing with this is just getting tiny little bit on the tip of the brush and just literally going over the raised part of the water to add that kind of sea foam, sea spray effect that you see. And literally just covering up all the top little raised bits to give it that more natural, realistic look. And once I have finished doing that, what I did off camera was, with some of the blobs of white paint, I did actually just smudge them a little bit with my finger so that they weren't as clumpy. And there you go. That is the finished Pirates Beach. So there you go. That's how I revamped my Pirates Cove base using products from Gatehouse Gaming. If you like the look of their products, you can follow the link in the description below and go directly to their website, where you can see their massive range of stuff that you can choose from. I'm going to be producing a lot more videos using their products. I've got some really cool basing ideas going on, so you be sure to see some of those coming up quite soon. And I also have an update video, as I said, coming up towards the end of probably next week, to get that out there so that you can see what I've been up to, where I've been, and also what plans I have for the channel going forward. Because as you can see, I'm actually back. I have a setup, I have camera, I have what I need. Granted, a few things have got a little bit wrong with this, so apologies for any technical hitches. I am working on that. So thank you very much for joining me. If you liked the content, please do give the video a like, because it really does help the channel, and consider subscribing so that you are notified every time I release a video. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. The links are in the description below. And until next time, happy hobbying.